Ladies and gentlemen, imagine a force within us so subtle, so deceptive, that it shapes our thoughts, relationships, and even our purpose without us realizing it. It whispers to us in moments of triumph, "You did this all on your own," and in moments of conflict, "You deserve more than this." It wears the mask of confidence, ambition, and strength, but its true nature often leads to isolation, division, and emptiness. This force is pride, a hidden adversary that can control us without our awareness, distorting our view of ourselves, others, and even the meaning of life. But what if we could unmask pride? What if we could see it for what it truly is and understand how it blinds, isolates, and distorts? What if we could replace it with something infinitely more fulfilling? Humility that frees us to grow, connect, and live with purpose. Today, we're going to take a deep dive into this profound human struggle. Together, we'll explore pride not as a simple flaw, but as a complex force that shapes who we are and how we can rise above it. Through 4 transformative insights, we'll uncover the tools to recognize pride in its many disguises, and more importantly, embrace humility as a path to clarity, joy, and spiritual freedom. Stay with me, because this isn't just a speech about pride. It's an invitation to a life that's richer, deeper, and more meaningful than you might have imagined. Let's begin. Pride is not just one among many flaws. It is the foundation upon which all other vices grow. It lies at the heart of discord, whether between individuals, communities, or even within ourselves. Pride demands to be at the center of all things, reshaping relationships and actions around its insatiable appetite for dominance. Unlike other vices that operate with clear desires, such as greed, which craves wealth, or envy, which covets another's success, pride is far more subtle and far-reaching. It does not rest until it has distorted every interaction and elevated itself above all else. Pride operates by replacing cooperation with competition. Where love seeks unity and selflessness builds harmony, pride insists on superiority. It demands recognition, control, and submission from others, making true relationships impossible. Love encourages giving. Pride demands taking. It cannot allow equals, for its very existence depends on being better than, rather than simply being. In this way, pride ensures division, creating fractures in what should be whole. Pride also undermines the foundation of mutual respect. It makes individuals blind to their own faults and hyper-aware of the perceived shortcomings of others. Instead of fostering humility, which allows us to understand and forgive, pride fosters judgment and contempt. This judgment is not rooted in a desire to help or correct, but rather in a need to feel superior. It drives us to compare, to compete, and ultimately to distance ourselves from one another. Relationships become transactional, and the walls of isolation begin to rise. At its core, pride twists the very nature of what it means to be human. As social beings, we are designed for connection, collaboration, and shared purpose. Yet pride undermines all of these, making us unwilling to depend on others or to admit our own limitations. It whispers lies of self-sufficiency, convincing us that we must stand apart to stand tall. But this isolation is not strength. It is a hollow tower built on shaky ground. The effects of pride ripple outward, creating conflicts on every level. In families, it sows resentment and misunderstanding. In friendships, it creates distance and rivalry. In communities, it breeds division and animosity. Even in our own hearts, pride creates inner turmoil, as we struggle to maintain an illusion of control and perfection that can never truly satisfy. The craving for dominance, fueled by pride, leads not to fulfillment, but to an endless cycle of dissatisfaction and striving. Pride, then, is not merely a personal flaw. It is a force that disrupts harmony and fosters chaos wherever it is present. It prevents true connection, authentic growth, and meaningful relationships. Recognizing its pervasive nature is the first step toward overcoming it, but this requires a willingness to see ourselves as we truly are, with all our strengths and weaknesses. Only through humility can we begin to dismantle the power of pride and rediscover the unity, peace, and love that it seeks to destroy. Without humility, pride will continue to root itself deeper, distorting not only our relationships but our very understanding of what it means to live fully and authentically. Pride is inherently competitive, a force that thrives not on achievement but on the need to surpass others. It is not content with being good, successful, or admirable. It must be better, more successful, and more admired than anyone else. This competitive nature makes pride uniquely destructive, as it transforms personal excellence into a zero-sum game, where someone else's success becomes a threat rather than an inspiration. At its core, pride is fueled by comparison. A person consumed by pride does not find joy in their own accomplishments, unless those accomplishments outshine others. They do not rejoice in wealth, intelligence, or skill for their own sake, but for the status and superiority these traits provide over others. The proud heart measures self-worth not by intrinsic value, but by relative standing. This relentless comparison creates a cycle of discontent, for there will always be someone richer, smarter, or more talented. Pride, therefore, is never satisfied and continuously seeks more, not to fulfill genuine needs or aspirations, but to assert dominance. This competitiveness makes pride inherently divisive. Instead of fostering collaboration or mutual growth, it sets people against one another. Relationships, whether personal or professional, are strained as pride turns cooperation into rivalry. Friends become competitors, colleagues become adversaries, and even within families, pride sows seeds of conflict. Where love and humility seek to build bridges, pride erects walls, making genuine connection and shared joy nearly impossible. Pride's competitive nature also distorts how individuals perceive others. It views them not as companions or equals, but as benchmarks or obstacles. The success of another becomes a source of irritation or envy, not admiration. The proud individual might dismiss the achievements of others, belittling them to maintain their own sense of superiority. This mindset isolates the individual, as they cannot celebrate the victories or growth of others without feeling diminished themselves. Even more insidiously, pride's competition is not limited to tangible achievements. It extends into moral and spiritual realms, where individuals might take pride in being more righteous or more enlightened than others. This moral superiority blinds people to their own flaws and creates a self-righteous attitude that alienates them from those who might otherwise offer support, friendship, or constructive feedback. In this way, pride becomes a barrier not only between individuals, but also between people and their potential for growth. The competitive nature of pride also has societal implications. It fuels conflicts between groups, communities, and nations, each vying to assert dominance over the other. Instead of seeking mutual benefit, pride drives people to prioritize victory at all costs, often leading to unnecessary disputes and the breakdown of relationships. On a larger scale, this manifests in power struggles, economic rivalries, and even wars, as pride feeds on the desire to be the greatest rather than the desire to foster collective well-being. Ultimately, pride's competitive nature ensures its own defeat. By isolating individuals and alienating communities, it undermines the very foundations of happiness and fulfillment. It is only by recognizing the futility of pride's endless comparisons and embracing humility that we can break free from this cycle. True contentment is found not in being better than others, but in being the best version of ourselves. Appreciating the strengths and successes of others without seeing them as a threat. Pride is one of the most blinding of all human flaws, a condition that conceals itself even as it thrives. Unlike other faults, which often come with a degree of self-awareness, anger can feel its heat, Envy knows its longing. Pride operates in the shadows, making it difficult for those afflicted to see its grip. It tricks individuals into believing they are justified in their actions and attitudes, creating an illusion of righteousness while distorting their perception of reality. This spiritual blindness is what makes pride uniquely dangerous, as it prevents honest self-reflection and personal growth. At its heart, pride clouds judgment by inflating one's sense of self-importance. It convinces individuals that their perspective is the only valid one, that their achievements are unparalleled, and that their value is greater than others. This inflated view of the self creates a barrier to seeing the world clearly. The proud individual becomes increasingly focused on their own supposed superiority, rendering them unable to recognize their weaknesses or acknowledge their dependence on others. In this way, pride not only blinds people to their own faults, but also isolates them from the support and wisdom of those around them. Pride's blindness extends beyond the self, distorting how individuals view others. It magnifies the flaws of others while minimizing or outright ignoring their virtues. This skewed perspective fuels judgment and criticism, as the proud person feels entitled to look down on others. What might be genuine mistakes or differences in opinion are interpreted as inferiority or incompetence. In this way, pride not only damages relationships, but also creates an environment where meaningful connection and understanding are nearly impossible. This blindness also prevents individuals from accepting constructive feedback. When pride takes root, it fosters a defensive attitude that resists correction or advice. Any suggestion of error or imperfection is seen not as an opportunity for growth, but as an attack on one's perceived superiority. This inability to accept feedback stunts personal development, as pride rejects the very input that could lead to improvement. Over time, this resistance to growth leaves the individual stagnant, clinging to their illusions of greatness while failing to address their shortcomings. Perhaps most tragically, pride blinds individuals to the true nature of humility and its value. It misconstrues humility as weakness or self-deprecation, failing to see that humility is not about thinking less of oneself, but about thinking of oneself less. This misconception ensures that pride continues to thrive, as the proud person resists the very virtue that could set them free. True humility allows individuals to see themselves honestly, to recognize their strengths without arrogance and their weaknesses without despair. Without this clarity, pride tightens its grip, creating a cycle of self-deception that becomes harder to escape. In its blindness, pride also damages one's relationship with higher ideals or spiritual truths. By placing the self above all else, pride makes it difficult to acknowledge a greater purpose or a higher power. It insists on autonomy and self-sufficiency, rejecting the humility required to seek guidance, forgiveness, or grace. This spiritual isolation further deepens the individual's blindness, as pride cuts them off from the sources of wisdom and growth that could lead them out of their self-centered state. Breaking free from pride's blindness requires a deliberate effort to see oneself and others clearly. It involves embracing humility, acknowledging the value of others, and being open to correction. Only by recognizing pride's blinding effects can individuals begin to dismantle its influence and move toward a life of clarity, connection, and growth. Pride is a master of disguise, often presenting itself as something virtuous, noble, or even necessary. It has the uncanny ability to wear the mask of traits that society values, making it difficult to recognize and even harder to confront. Unlike vices that openly show their negative effects, pride hides behind qualities such as ambition, confidence, or self-respect, turning what might be genuine strengths into vehicles for self-glorification. This ability to camouflage itself allows pride to flourish unchecked, often in the very places where humility and selflessness should reign. One of the most common disguises pride adopts is that of self-confidence. While confidence in one's abilities is essential for growth and success, pride twists this into arrogance. It convinces individuals that their worth is greater than others because of their skills, talents, or achievements. This form of pride not only diminishes the contributions of others, but also creates a false sense of invincibility. Instead of encouraging collaboration or learning, it fosters a mindset of superiority that isolates the individual from constructive relationships and feedback. Another way pride disguises itself is through ambition. Ambition, when rooted in a desire to achieve meaningful goals, is a positive force that drives progress. However, pride corrupts ambition, turning it into a relentless pursuit of personal glory. Under this guise, individuals may justify ruthless behavior, claiming that they are simply striving for excellence. In truth, their actions are often motivated by the desire to outshine others or to gain recognition, rather than by a genuine passion for their work or a commitment to a higher purpose. Pride also masquerades as self-respect, convincing individuals that their refusal to admit fault or seek help is a form of strength. This false pride prevents people from acknowledging their limitations or accepting the support they need. It paints vulnerability as weakness and humility as self-deprecation. In this way, pride not only stifles personal development, but also hinders the formation of authentic relationships, as it discourages openness and mutual dependence. Perhaps the most insidious disguise of pride is its tendency to appear as moral or spiritual superiority. It convinces individuals that they are more virtuous, enlightened, or deserving than others. This form of pride leads to self-righteousness, where individuals judge others harshly while ignoring their own shortcomings. It creates a sense of entitlement and fosters division, as the proud person believes they are inherently better than those who think or live differently. This type of pride is particularly dangerous because it cloaks itself in the language of virtue, making it harder to detect and address. The disguises of pride make it a pervasive and enduring challenge. By blending with qualities that are often admired, pride avoids scrutiny and correction. To uncover and confront pride, individuals must practice deep self-awareness and honest reflection. They must ask themselves whether their confidence stems from genuine ability or a need to dominate, whether their ambition serves a meaningful purpose or merely their ego, and whether their self-respect is rooted in humility or arrogance. Only by peeling back the layers of pride's disguises can one begin to see it for what it truly is, a force that undermines growth, connection, and authenticity. True humility, far from being a weakness, becomes the key to unmasking pride, allowing individuals to embrace their strengths and limitations with grace and sincerity. Pride, at its core, seeks to elevate the self above all else, creating a false sense of independence that undermines our natural interdependence as human beings. It tempts individuals to believe they are self-sufficient, that they do not need the guidance, support, or influence of others. This illusion of autonomy isolates people, cutting them off from meaningful relationships and the very growth that can only come from community and collaboration. Pride feeds on this self-centered independence, convincing individuals that reliance on others is a weakness rather than a strength. This distorted sense of self-sufficiency manifests in several ways. First, it creates a resistance to acknowledging personal limitations. Pride blinds individuals to their own vulnerabilities, making them unwilling to admit when they need help. Whether it is seeking advice, accepting correction, or relying on the expertise of others, pride resists any action that might suggest inadequacy. It fosters an illusion of control, encouraging individuals to believe they can handle everything on their own. This mindset, however, often leads to frustration and failure, as no one is truly capable of navigating life without the support and insight of others. Pride's illusion of independence also disrupts relationships. It prevents individuals from forming deep, meaningful connections because true relationships require vulnerability and mutual reliance. Pride, however, demands that the self always appear strong, competent, and above reproach. It resists the humility needed to open up, apologize, or admit flaws, which are all essential for building trust and intimacy. Over time, this inability to connect creates a sense of isolation, as pride prioritizes the self over the shared bonds that enrich life. Another way pride fosters isolation is through its rejection of authority or higher guidance. It convinces individuals that they are the ultimate source of wisdom and judgment, making them resistant to advice, teaching, or spiritual truths. Pride dismisses the value of learning from others, whether it is from mentors, traditions, or a higher power. This resistance to external guidance limits personal growth, as pride closes the door to the very resources that can expand understanding and perspective. It keeps individuals trapped in their own narrow view of the world, unable to see the bigger picture. Pride also creates a false sense of superiority that distances individuals from others. It encourages comparison, where one's own achievements, intelligence, or morality are constantly measured against others. This competitive mindset fosters division rather than unity, as pride sees others as threats or obstacles, rather than collaborators or equals. This not only isolates the individual, but also breeds animosity, as pride cannot tolerate the success or worth of others without feeling diminished. The path to overcoming this isolation lies in embracing humility. Humility does not deny individual strengths, but recognizes that no one is entirely self-sufficient. It acknowledges the value of others and the necessity of collaboration, learning, and mutual support. By setting aside the illusion of independence, individuals can foster genuine connections and open themselves to growth and wisdom. True strength lies not in isolating oneself, but in understanding that we are strongest when we recognize and embrace our shared humanity. Pride may promise independence, but it is humility that leads to true freedom and fulfillment. And pride is deeply deceptive, convincing individuals that it is a motivator for success, a defender of dignity, or a protector of personal worth. However, at its root, pride is a distortion, a force that replaces the pursuit of goodness, truth, and fulfillment with the pursuit of self-glorification. Pride distorts our true purpose by shifting the focus from serving others, fostering relationships, or striving for meaningful goals, to serving the self above all else. This distortion corrupts the way we think, act, and relate to the world, leading us away from what is truly valuable and meaningful. One of pride's most harmful distortions is its impact on the way we perceive success. Instead of valuing success as a reflection of effort, talent, or the positive impact we have on others, pride reframes it as a means of proving superiority. Achievements are no longer fulfilling for their own sake, but become tools for comparison and validation. This mindset traps individuals in a cycle of constant striving, not for genuine accomplishment, but for recognition and praise. It shifts the focus from intrinsic goals to external validation, leaving a sense of emptiness even in the wake of apparent success. Pride also distorts the nature of relationships. Relationships at their best are built on mutual respect, love, and understanding. However, pride turns relationships into power dynamics, where the focus is on control, dominance, or being right. Instead of fostering genuine connections, pride fuels conflict and division. It prevents individuals from admitting mistakes, offering forgiveness, or showing vulnerability, all of which are essential for healthy, meaningful relationships. As pride takes hold, it isolates individuals, leaving them disconnected and lonely, even if surrounded by people. In addition, pride distorts the concept of self-worth. True self-worth is rooted in a balance of humility and confidence, recognizing both strengths and limitations. Pride, however, inflates self-worth into arrogance, demanding constant validation and comparison. This false sense of worth is fragile, as it relies on external factors, status, achievements, or the opinions of others. The better one is cheaper and healthier. When we think we are in a part better, we forget what is beyond it. And poverty. When these external measures falter, the proud individual is left with a sense of inadequacy and fear, leading to defensive or harmful behaviors to protect their ego. Pride's distortion extends even to spiritual and moral dimensions. It twists virtues like humility, service, and gratitude into signs of weakness, discouraging individuals from embracing them. Pride resists acknowledgement of a higher power or purpose, placing the self at the center of existence. This mindset not only distances individuals from spiritual growth, but also limits their ability to find meaning beyond their own desires and ambitions. It blinds them to the broader picture of life, where true fulfillment often comes from serving others, embracing humility, and recognizing a purpose greater than oneself. Overcoming pride's distortion requires a conscious effort to realign priorities and perspectives. It begins with humility, a willingness to see the self as neither superior nor inferior but as part of a larger whole. It involves valuing relationships over ego, purpose over validation, and service over self-glorification. By rejecting pride's distortions, individuals can rediscover their true purpose, one rooted in love, connection, and meaning, rather than in the hollow pursuit of self-centered goals. In conclusion, pride is a subtle yet powerful force that distorts our relationships, our sense of self, and our understanding of purpose. It blinds us to our flaws, fosters competition and isolation, disguises itself as virtue, and pulls us away from true fulfillment. To overcome pride, we must embrace humility. A humility that acknowledges our strengths without arrogance, admits our weaknesses without despair, and seeks connection over competition. True freedom and joy lie not in elevating ourselves above others, but in recognizing the beauty of shared humanity and the strength found in unity, service, and purpose beyond self-interest. As we reflect on these truths, let us commit to confronting pride with honesty and courage, allowing humility to guide us toward a life of meaning, growth, and authentic connection. May we find the strength to look inward with clarity, to look outward with compassion, and to walk forward with a heart open to wisdom and grace.